tired of this place. I'm gonna get out of here as soon as I can. Please help me. I'm losing my mind. Please. We are finally here. The 5th anniversary of the channel. No. Hey there, I'm Anime and Toko All-Star X here, and I've been wanting to do this kind of video for a long time. We're talking about franchises that change up their protagonists throughout each installment. Unlike most franchises of video games that sticks with one protagonist, like God of War, Kratos, Devil May Cry, Dante, Doom, the Doom Slayer, and so many more. But we're talking about franchises that change up their protagonists to mix it up a bit. And we're going to talk about each of them. Starting off with one of the most recognizable ones, Shin Megami Tensei, or Megaten. The Megaten series is well known for changing up their protagonists throughout the years. Starting out with Akemi Nakajima, the first Megaten protagonist, who made his first appearance in Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei, the novel. Well, that later on became a video game, and later on became the birthing place of the Shin Megami Tensei, aka the Megaten series. But he's not the only protagonist that appeared in the series. His love interest, Yume Kendo, sorry I kind of butchered her name, is also kind of like the dual protagonist of the series. But with the first Shin Megami Tensei game came out, they changed it up a bit by introducing a new protagonist, and then they keep on making new protagonists for each of the games, including the spin-offs. And each protagonist has their own unique charm and their unique design. But there's another franchise that could rival the Megaten series of protagonists. It's the Final Fantasy series. That's right, Final Fantasy. Even though most fans of Final Fantasy will think of Cloud Strife, but since he's from the 7 in Final Fantasy game, that doesn't mean that he's the first ever protagonist of the franchise. That honor goes to the Warrior of Light, who was the first protagonist of the franchise. And just like how Megami Tensei, it changes up their protagonists for each spin-off, so does the Final Fantasy series, changing up their character designs to make each of the protagonists stand out. That's why each protagonist will look like the Warrior of Light, because they are not the Warrior of Light. They're their own unique character. Heck, all these protagonists are in a kind of fighting game together, as well. And meanwhile, we're getting new protagonists for each of the two franchises. But let's talk about another franchise that no one has never talked about, since a company who is well known for a blue hedgehogs doesn't bring them up. That being Shine Force and Leica Kaiser. That's right, we're talking about some unknown MMORPGs this time. So let's start with Shine Force. Shine Force is an MMORPG produced by Sega. And just like how Megami Tensei and Final Fantasy changes up the protagonists, so does this franchise. We don't play as the same protagonist for each title. Instead, we're playing as new heroes roles for each of the games. And I don't know each of the protagonists' names since I don't play these games, but I kind of got the feeling that this series really, really needs more love it deserves. And then there's Ligma Kyr. And I did look up some of the protagonists, and each of them stand out in their own unique ways. Because one, they're not like the original protagonists of the first games. They're like, again, just like how I said in the Final Fantasy one, their own unique character. Because each time a protagonist is needed for a new game, they have to stand out from the previous one. And that's the point of having a new protagonist, is to stand them out from the previous one. And speaking of a series well known for having a changing protagonist, let's talk about games that have more than one protagonist again. Since we're talking about franchises that have more than one protagonist. Like the Darksiders series. Darksiders is one of those underrated franchises that some people don't know the existence of. Basically, you play as one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. War being the first protagonist of the first game, Death being the second horseman of the second game, Fury of the third game, and finally, we're going to probably get Stripe to complete the set of the horsemen. If you count the dual protagonist role that Stripe got. Darksiders decides to do differently by having each of the characters having their own unique gameplay. War is basically a God of War style character, but he uses a giant huge ass sword. Death is basically a Prince of Persia character, but he uses scythes. And Fury is kind of remind me of a certain castle. And Strife, well, I didn't get the chance to play Darksiders Genesis. I don't yet, but I am definitely gonna play that game. And then there's the other franchise, that being the Souls franchise. I'm just gonna look at the games made by From Software, because each of their games introduce a new protagonist. Starting with Demon's Souls. Demon's Souls is basically the first Souls game. Or if you want to count it as Dark Souls 0. When you play as the Slayer of Demons. Since it's the first game of the franchise, but everyone cares about is Dark Souls 1. When you play as the Chosen Undead. And even though they wear medieval style armor, you can change up the protagonist's look whatever you want. But most fans agree that some armors are kind of like their canon looks. But then we got Dark Souls 2, when we play as the Bearer of the Curse. And most fans agree that this game is kind of like the low and the high of the franchise. And then finally we got Dark Souls 3, when we play as the Ashen One. And he's probably the last Souls protagonist of all time. And he was the best choice to end the Souls franchise. But let's not forget about more from Software. Like Sekiro from Sekiro. The Hunter from Bloodborne. The Tarnished from Elden Ring. Even though these guys are not from Souls games, but fans like to call them Souls-like games because they have similar gameplay to them. And finally, we got to the final batch of protagonists that I see. And remember what I said Fury kind of reminds me of? Yep. She reminds me of the Castlevania series. Started back in the 1980s as a tribute to classic horror movies from Universal. Castlevania is well known for the Belmont clan, but it also has the other protagonists that no one doesn't talk about, but some people love them regardless. Like, seriously, there are so many protagonists of the Castlevania series. Some are part of the Belmont clan, the Morrises, and non-Belmonts. And it's crazy that Konami created a franchise with multiple protagonists from different eras. And I really, really love that about these franchises. They don't need a single protagonist to tell one good story. Instead, they want to tell a different story with a new protagonist, aka a new face for a new audience. Well, I want to talk about more franchises that have more than one protagonist, but it's going to take a long time, since there's a lot of games that had more than one protagonist. So, if we hit 5 likes in this video, I will pick one comment list of many protagonists from a franchise well known for multiple protagonists. And I'll talk about it. This is Anime and Toku All-Star X here. And thank you for the 5th anniversary of the channel. See ya next time. Bye.